whatever
Yeah.
the fuck. And
other
turn
animals.
Just turn him into a superhero.
Yeah.
Instead of have him just be a rich guy, give him some crazy genetic mutation, something that they do to him that turns him into something.
But I think that is the thing. I mean, not to that extent, but that's the thing that Frank does, and that's the reason why I wanted Affleck, because like to me, Batman's a big dude, right? Affleck's 6'4", you know, he's like a legit big dude, and you know, like in the boots are like 2 inches, so like he's literally almost like, you know, 6'6" in the costume. Like when he comes out in the costume with that little bit of, I mean, we put some muscle on him, and then there's a muscle suit under the suit, and he's like, he's like legitimately a scary looking thing. You know, he's just like standing there, and you're like, holy shit, like dude, the chin is so insane in that cowl. You know, I mean, look at him. He's like, you know, I took that picture, by the way. You know, he's like legitimately. Like that's Batman to me. I mean, I don't know, like what, you know, because
Christian Bale was a great Batman.
He's a great Batman, but he's still like, you know, 5'10". You know, it's cool. I mean, not to be. I'm not
does mean something.
I'm not being rude
was
about
Batman
like,
giant in the comic books.
In some of the, like in Dark Knight Returns and in Frank's comics, and like, you know, in the classics, he's a pretty big dude. You know, he's always been pretty thick. In Dark Knight Returns, if you look at Dark Knight Returns, you know, like there's a line like where he's trying to hold someone's gun and his finger can't get in the trigger guard because he's so big, you know, like where he's like, you know, I like things like that, like where you're just like, he has this genetic like gift of just being this big fucking dude. And other than that, you know, his parents were murdered in front of him, and he's also like a billionaire. So like that weird, like you want it to not be just one of those things, right?
Right.
It needs to be all of them in order for him to really to do what he can do.
But if somebody really wanted to fuck around with the genre today, if he had all that money, wouldn't he invest in some wild genetic engineering that turns him into an actual superhero?
Yeah, so it's fun. Well, I think that's the real. That's the
Batman
fun
fans
of
are pulling their hair out.
Yeah,
right
like they
now.
don't like that.
What
They
are
don't.
you
They,
saying? You
Batman's on
can't kill-
steroids. You know,
Not
like,
just steroids.
Not just steroids. You wish it was steroids.
I'm talking something way crazier.
Well, it's funny because like I did that scene. Like there's that scene. I think it's in. I don't think it's in the. It might be in the theatrical, but it's definitely in the director's cut. Where like he wakes up and there's some chick in the bed with him that. From the night before, because like I always say, like, you know, Batman fucks to forget for sure. You know, Batman's a drunk for sure. You know, because like he has huge trauma, right? Like, and I think that like, you know, you wonder why he's a playboy. It's because like, you know, like anybody, like that's a common, you know, fucking forget is that's a real thing. That's a way to deal with trauma. You know, and I think that like I have that. There's that bit he like wakes up and there's like just painkillers on his bedside table, and he just like pops them and drinks some wine. I'm just like, you know, to me that's Batman. You know, like he's got a Maplethorpe above the bed. He's got his glass house, and he's just like he has an aesthetic that's like clean, but like that's all he does. That's like his life. You know, like
the thing about Batman, the modern versions of Batman, the Miller Batman, your Batmans. What's interesting is that now superheroes are these flawed, like very, very distressed characters.
Sure.
Like the Watchmen is the best example.
Watchmen is all trauma.
It's all trauma, and they're all crazy.
They're completely crazy.
And it's such a good movie. Why the fuck was there never a Watchmen 2?
Well, because, you know, frankly, the comic book doesn't exist. For me, that's why there wasn't. I just was like, the thing that's awesome about also that it's one of those things like when you start to really, you know, look at like Night Owl not being able to get it up because he's not in his costume. Like that's just a cool to me. That's just like that's boiling down superhero to its fucking purest thing. I don't get turned on unless I got to go out, fucking save some people, do some crime fighting, and now I'm fucking ready to go.
Yeah.
You know, like that to me was like, that was like, that as a superhero movie, as a concept, took a long time to like land with the boys or like these other kind of superheroes where now it's cool to deconstruct superheroes. It's kind of fun. Everyone's having a good time with it. And I was doing it, whatever, almost, 15 years ago. And it just I just don't think superheroes were as deep in the culture as they are now, where like all those things would land. Like all that deconstructive kind of work that we were doing at the time was really in reference to comic books, not comic book movies, because Watchmen was written, in response to the comic book industry, not necessarily. Comic book movies didn't exist when the book was written.
Right.
So it's a very much, Alan Moore was very much obsessed with the morality of comic book heroes within comic books. And he just took an adult look at it. He's a smart genius. He's a fucking pure genius. So.
Well, that was the thing that people figured out along the way with graphic novels as well, was that comic books aren't just a thing that children like. I was a giant comic book fanatic when I was a kid, and I wanted to be a comic book illustrator. That's what I wanted to do.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I had one bad high school art teacher, and it ruined it for me.
Fucking guy.
He ruined it for my friend John DeVore, who was the most talented guy in the class. When I found out that he gave him an F, I was like, are you out of your fucking mind? This guy was so talented.
Wow.
And he was like, I was pretty good, and he was quite a bit better than me. And then there was this other guy named Kevin, who was in our class, who was also like really good. And all of us wanted to be comic book artists. And I was really into the more adult versions of it. Like there was some amazing like horror genre comic books back in the day, like creepy and eerie, that had these incredible like Frazetta covers.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever seen Creepy and Eerie?
Sure, of course.
Yeah, God, I love those things.
I'll tell you sorry, go ahead, finish your.
No, go ahead.
But you want? Oh, so what I was going to say was that like, I was obsessed with growing up this comic book called Heavy Metal.
Yes.
And heavy metal is like my thing. Basically what happened was my mom, I was like 13 or whatever, and I bought, maybe 12 even, I'd bought a copy of Heavy Metal, whoever sold it to me, because it says adult